a lot of people use their iPhones for self-tapes. And the first thing I tell my clients, if you're using your iPhone, don't use this camera, use this one. It's a better quality camera. But more importantly, most actors, what they do is they frame themselves up here with the camera or the distance, and then they record it with here. But the problem is that this lens acts like a wide angle lens or a 35 millimeter lens. So what ends up happening, I'm going to share this right now. Mike, do you see that up there?
Yep.
Great. So this young woman is, you can see the distance, the camera is the same distance, but the lens is changed and she looks completely different. And most people, when they're auditioning and using their iPhones as their setups, they're having their face distorted and it's looking either like the 24 millimeter or the 35 millimeter because they are too close. What you have to do is if you're using an iPhone to tape, you need to go further out so that it mimics a 70 or a 50 or an 85 millimeter lens. There's a reason why headshot photographers are always using 50 to 85 millimeter because everybody looks like a movie star on it. That's what you want to do. You want to look like a movie star for your self-tape, right? So if you pull your phone back out further, and then you'll notice that it will begin to act more, and then import it into iMovie, and then recrop it. I'm going to stop the share here. And then recrop it in so that now you're in whatever close-up, medium close-up that you need, but your face will no longer be distorted.
So to put this into perspective, so you start out further.
Yes.
You're setting it up so you're starting out further because if you punch in, if you move the equipment too close, you distort the image. And this has been true. I have had other people bring this up. I don't know if anybody has mentioned it in our event questions that people put ahead of time, which, guys, I appreciate that. But I have had this chat on other channels and other people have talked about it. They've said specifically about the iPhone. They've said, what about the iPhone lens and how it distorts people's faces? And that's the solution, right? Is like, it's too close to you, move it back and then crop it in later.
Exactly. And the thing that people need to understand is that the phone is not distorting you. The phone was designed with a wider angle because when this lens here is for selfies, right? So this selfies generally are this tight.
Right.
Right. But it's also a crap lens. It's a little keyhole lens. The one you want to use is this one. It's better glass. It's just better. But the problem is most of the time when you're doing this, it's because you're taking landscape or group pictures. And so that it's designed for the same field of view that you see, and we see in about 35 millimeter. But you auditioning and you go, why don't I look like my headshot in my self-tape? It's because your headshot was done with a 50 or 75 or 85 millimeter, which is my favorite. So what you have to do is you have to actually pull the phone back so that it's not distorting your face, so that it works as the lens is designed, then crop in, and all of a sudden you're going to look like you're in a 35, like you're in a 50 millimeter lens. It takes a little extra work. It doesn't work on the older phones. If you have an iPhone 5 or earlier, it doesn't work because the image is not high quality enough.
Okay, fair. That's a fair point, actually, because you're right. As you crop in, what's really happening is you're zooming into the image according to the post-production program, iMovie, Adobe Premiere, DaVinci, whatever it is that you want to use to deal with your self-tape later, which sometimes people don't do, which is fine. If you have a setup that you can shoot and basically send that product off, great, then you're good to go. A lot of times, though, a little bit of post-production is going to go a long way, and this is an example of that.
It goes a huge way. Again, let me just share this really quickly, and then we can go on to the next thing here, is you can see that the most phones are either going to have somewhere around 24 to 35 millimeter. You want between 50 and 85. that is the sweet spot for your face. Now you have to still move, but understand, if you get a lens that is just, let me stop this, take this up. If you just get a prime lens that's just an 85, then you have to move the camera to frame up how you want as far as your size, but you're going to still look like your headshot.
100%. I just want to point out that there are also other tools out there, mostly made for filmmakers. And this really goes right along with what Alberto's saying, is that when you start thinking like a filmmaker, you really start opening up options for yourself.
Yes.
And there's a company out there called Moment. We've partnered with Moment. Actor CEO has been partnering with Moment for a long time. They make a 58 millimeter lens that you buy a case for any type of phone, and now you can snap this lens onto your case.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And look at what side it's built for, by the way. You can see the show is running right here, but it's not built for the front side, which you can get an adapter to do the front side. But to your point, that's not the camera you want to shoot with. You want to shoot with the other. So you get the case. It's like $19 for the case. These things go on sale all the time. They're under $100. This is cinema quality glass. It's a 58 millimeter lens. Boom.
Perfect.
Now you've walked right into that range that you were talking about, the range you want to be in between 50 and 85. And you've helped yourself quite a lot. And that's gonna maybe be something where you don't have to do the post-production thing in the end.
It makes a huge difference, because one thing I get from agents when I get feedback from them, or if they send me a client, I have one specific one at Wilhelmina that sent me back, and they were like, why is it that, and this is a major runway model. They were like, why is it that when you take my runway model, they look just as good on the runway, but when I send them to everybody else, their nose looks huge? And I'm like, because they're not, it's lens. It's just
the lens of the thing they're shooting on, and it's not set up.
So it would really up your game.